In the middle of a large garbage dump in the North Pacific Ocean, Sophia is filming her documentary with her husband, Juan, where they discuss the current situation in the area, explaining the different species of shark they have discovered. The woman is alerted by her teammates, who claim to have picked up a new signal in the surrounding area. Quickly, the divers rush to put on their suits while Sophia and her communication partner watch the radar from the control room. Chris coordinates his team to carry out the dive. And after a few minutes of searching, they arrive at the body of a sperm whale, which has ended up trapped in a fishing net. Due to the lack of food, the marine animal suffered while trapped. It had no chance of survival. But during his analysis, the researcher found a gigantic bite on the whale's side. At the same time, one of the explorers realizes that the signal is getting closer and closer. And before she can move away from the animal's body, Chris is surprised by a shark. Despite the fright, the man is not attacked by the predator. But when they look around, the divers realize that they are completely surrounded by sharks. At this point, the women begin to lose communication with their teammates, who decide to band together to create a circle of protection. Soon after, the communicator alerts the divers that Lilith is approaching. And after a few seconds, they come face to face with a gigantic shark, which is more than 7 meters long. Impressed by the size of the marine animal, Sophia asks if it really is the right predator. And the researcher, he says yes, as he can see its identification tag. So the woman asks Chris to collect Lilith's sample, but when he tries to insert the needle, the man ends up getting desperate and misses the application site. The shark flees, frightened, and Sophia orders the divers to return to the boat, as they won't be able to get close to it again for a few hours. However, just as they were about to leave, the group noticed that the predator had returned, and before they could react, Chris was attacked by the creature. Thanks to this, all the divers go into a state of panic, causing them to get lost and easily devoured by the shark. Wanting to save her husband and her friends, Sophia grabs her combat harpoon and dives towards the group. Before she could reach them, the woman came across the arm of one of the men, giving her quite a fright. But even so, she decided to continue her search. Upon arriving at the scene of the attack, Sophia is detected by Lilith, who, after circling her for a few seconds, lunges at her prey. Despite managing to dodge the attack, the researcher has her leg caught in a net, causing her to become trapped in the shark's body and start sinking at high speed while losing her breath. Due to the great depth that the animal is reaching, Sophia has the inside of her ears ruptured by the pressure, and the pain makes her even more desperate. Quickly, the woman uses her survival knife to cut through the net, allowing her to swim to the surface and save herself at the last second before losing consciousness. 3 years later, a couple of young people have fun with their special magnet, which they throw into the sea to find belongings that have been lost for dozens of years. After a few minutes of searching, they manage to hook a strange object. And when they pull it out to analyze what they have just found, the explorers discover that they are facing an explosive. Sometime later, the bomb squad arrives on the scene so that they can retrieve the weapons and neutralize the threat. While answering journalists' questions, Sergeant Adele receives a call from his boss, Anjali, who asks him to gather his team and return to base. Far away, Sophia is carrying out another of her expeditions for primary school pupils. But she is extremely shaken when she is asked about the elimination of her team. Feeling ashamed of having been ridiculed by the students, the woman decides to leave, only to be intercepted by Mika, who claims to be a big fan of her work. Even so, Sophia says she can't talk at the moment, and to convince her, the girl reveals that she has information about Tag 7, which the researcher was involved in some time ago. The young woman then takes the woman to the center of her ocean protection group and says that they created the organization because they were inspired by Sophia's work. As they walk, Mika reveals that they have the ability to turn off the marine animals' trackers, preventing them from being hunted by scientists when they arrive at the research center. Mika goes to her friend Ben, who claims to be cutting the tag signal of Ulysses, a shark from Spain. That is protected by the NGO. Soon after, the hacker shows Lilith's movements over the last few months, and Sophia realizes that the predator has managed to cross most of the oceans. Now the shark began to advance into European territory, making it as far as Paris and settling in the great river Seine. Confused, Sophia tells her that Lilith couldn't survive in fresh water, and Mika explains that thanks to garbage pollution and climate change, marine animals have changed their behavior. This meant that the shark ended up swimming against the current as it was just trying to survive after its natural habitat had been completely destroyed, so that they can rescue Lilith and take her back to her home. Mika says they intend to dive into the River Seine, where they will try to communicate with the predator and get it out of there. She says that a few days ago there was an accident on the bridge above the river, which caused one of the vehicles to fall into the water, but the driver was never found. Upon hearing this, the woman becomes indignant, saying that the plan is extremely dangerous and that a shark will never understand any kind of human communication. Despite this, Mika explains that they have the right strategies for dealing with the animal. But even with all this information, Sophia refuses to believe the girls and leaves. At her home, the researcher tracks down Tag 7 once again and realizes that everything Mika said was true because Lilith really did make it to Paris. Concerned, the woman tries to make a call to the girl, but realizing that she won't be answered, she decides to set off in the direction of the place. Far from there, the researchers reach the center of the River Seine, and after putting on her equipment, Ma dives in to investigate the site. When she arrives at the wreckage of the vehicle, the girl finds several shark teeth marks and no trace of the driver. At that moment, Ben notices that a police boat is approaching them and tries to alert her friend, who releases the safety rope, ordering her to leave the scene. While observing the area, Ma ends up being surprised by Lilith, who begins to swim rapidly around her. Realizing that she could be eliminated by the predator, the researcher decides to return to the surface, causing her to be detained by the authorities while her friend flees to avoid being caught. At the police station, Anjali asks her staff to deal with the girl, and Adele takes her to the interrogation room at the same time. Sophia is walking along the river when she notices a small dog barking incessantly in the direction of the water and is confused by what the animal is seeing. A few hours later, Mika tires of resisting Ad's questions and claims that a giant shark is roaming the waters of the Seine. Believing that the girl is just lying, the sergeant gets angry. But at that moment, one of his teammates appears and says that they have an emergency. Far away, Sophia continues her search for Lilith while trying to keep everyone away from the water so that no further attacks can happen. Just then the woman receives a call from one of the police officers who asks her to meet them at one of the docks in the area. Upon arriving at the site, Sophia meets Mika and Adele, who ask her to analyze a body that was found in the river a few hours ago. Analyzing the victim's remains, the woman says that it was certainly a shark attack, and upon hearing this, the sergeant decides to take the researchers to his boss. Despite the great risk that the animal is taking because it is out of its habitat, Anjali says that they will investigate the case so that they can be sure that there is a predator in the river. So the group of policemen meet up with Sophia in their dinghy, and together they set off towards the site while Mika follows them on her bicycle. Realizing that they are approaching Lilith, the agents put on their diving suits and synchronize their tracking devices. On reaching the bottom, the trio of policemen search for the shark, and during their search, they come across a huge fish that has had part of its body devoured. Trying to locate the animal, the group lights up the sewer entrances, not even imagining that the predator is right behind them. Realizing that Lilith is about to be eliminated, Nico orders Ben to deactivate the shark tag, and although reluctant, she deactivates the tracker. Now the signal from all the devices has been cut off, and the sergeant decides to pull his teammates back to the boat. Furious, Adele questions Sophia about what has just happened, and the woman tells him that she has no idea how the tracker could have been compromised. Disgusted by the police's treatment, the researcher decides to leave and scolds Mika for what she has done. When pressed by the woman, the girl says that they shouldn't even have gone there, as they could have eliminated Lilith for no reason. Soon afterwards, Ma accuses Sophia of being to blame for everything that is happening, causing her to feel devastated and leave. At the police station, Adele asks his boss to postpone the triathlon championship, but the woman refuses, saying that the event is already very famous and cannot be canceled. Trying to stop the authorities from eliminating Lilith, Mika publishes a testimonial on the internet so that she can convince thousands of people to stop the hunt and rescue the shark. Far away, Anjali and Adele take Sophia to the mayor of Paris and try to warn her about the current situation of the Seine River, saying that the triathlon championship should be canceled immediately. Despite numerous warnings from the trio, The woman claims that the city has already received almost $2 billion in budget to ensure that the event takes place. And for this reason, she will not allow the shark to spoil the competition. So the mayor orders the police to obey her orders and find a way to get rid of the predator. The group then sets up a plan to capture Lilith, but before they can put it into practice, they are surprised by Ben, who claims that Mika is planning a way to rescue the predator. Before they do, the girl explains that the shark is traveling through the city's catacombs, which are allowing it to travel through Paris's underground freely. Noticing the danger the inhabitants are in, Adele decides to get his group together, and after reactivating the animal tag, they set off toward the tunnels. In the center of the underground passages, Mika is gathered with all the participants in her project, and after preparing her sonar, the girl dives with the device to attract Lilith. Quickly, the police team moves to get all the young people out of the water. But before they can rescue Mika, Ben realizes that the shark has arrived. While everyone is watching Lilith, Sophia notices another fin appearing on the side of the animal and realizes that she already has a baby. Desperate, everyone orders Mika to get out of the water immediately, but she refuses to obey and starts stroking the baby shark. At that moment, Lilith swims at high speed around the girl, causing everyone to become increasingly frightened. Upon hearing Sophia's warning that the predator is about to attack its prey, Adele decides to act and dives towards it. Despite this, Mika doesn't allow the sergeant to pull her out of the water, at which point Lilith leaps out of the water, catching the girl with her mouth. As a result, everyone is in complete despair, and the shark attack causes several young people to fall into the water as the entire floor has been wetted by the creature. Quickly, Otto returns to dry land, and together the police coordinate the crowd of people who run in terror as Lilith devours Mika's body with her baby. Due to the widespread panic, Ben ends up being thrown into the water and begins to be pushed further and further away by the rest of the young people, causing her to be wiped out due to lack of oxygen. At the same time, Leupold, one of the squad's policemen, also ends up being pushed towards the sharks. But instead of despairing, he decides to continue coordinating the youngsters with his flashlight. Soon afterwards, everyone starts swimming through the exit tunnel, and the general chaos allows Lilith to capture several people around her. On the edges, police officers continue to pull survivors out of the water, but many of them have already had their legs completely swallowed by the sharks. While trying to lead the youngsters, Leopold is caught by Lilith, making all the agents angry and causing them to start shooting at the monster. Due to the small space in the exit tunnel, people's panic makes the situation even worse, and several end up being knocked down and hid by the other survivors. Just as he was about to return to his team, Leopold is grabbed by Lilith and taken to the bottom of the building, leaving everyone in shock at what they are witnessing. Hours later, Sophia arrives at the hospital, where countless victims of the attack are screaming in the corridors while the paramedics try to control the situation. With all the patients stabilized, the policemen meet up with the woman in the center of the underground canals and discover that the pup has been eliminated by the shots. After an analysis in the laboratory, Sophia notices several innovative features in the predator's body, which seems to have an accelerated organism. When faced with completely unknown genetic conditions, the woman says that Lilith could be the beginning of a new species of shark that could dominate the entire ocean. Realizing that they need to eliminate the marine animal as quickly as possible, the group goes to the mayor, who reprimands them for all the attacks on the city's canals. Trying to defend her companions, Angelique says that they had warned her about the risks that Lilith could bring to the population. And upon hearing this, the woman becomes even more furious. The mayor recalls that the group hadn't been alerted to Mika's activities, and therefore didn't even know that all those people were going to gather at the canals. Outraged, Sophia confronts the mayor, who becomes furious and orders them to leave, as it will be the army that will be dealing with this situation from now on. Despite this, Adele decides that he will not allow thousands of people to be attacked by sharks during the triathlon, and together, they come up with a plan to blow up the catacombs with the help of 2 military experts. In order to distract the predators, Sophia reveals that she is going to use her infrasound propagator to distract them for a long time, once his colleagues are at a safe distance from the tunnels. One of the soldiers will set off the explosives, which will destroy all the sharks in the same channels. With all the initial procedures completed, Adele and Sophia dive into the underground zone alongside Adama, and together they swim to Lilith's nest. On the surface, the sharpshooters position themselves in the middle of the bridge, while the other combatants make rounds of the Seine in their boats so that they can prevent any shark attacks. As they approach the escape point, Caro and Marcus are intercepted by military soldiers who order them to return to their post as the event is about to begin. Quickly, Angeli activates her radio and orders the agents to clear the way for her companions, allowing the pair to proceed with their plan. The divers then reach the center of the catacombs, and when they turn on their flashlights, they come across hundreds of shark pups. At the same time, the Paris triathlon begins, and Sophia starts preparing her sonar, while Marcus dives to open the escape passage at one of the exits on the River Seine. Observing the scene, the researcher realizes that Lilith is not with the pups and begins to be confused by the absence of the mother shark. At this point, Marcus warns the group that he has finished cutting the bars of the escape tunnel, and after positioning all the explosives, he tells them it's time to leave. The problem is that Sophia hasn't spotted Lilith yet, but before they can leave, they are surprised by the predator, which attacks one of the soldiers, causing dozens of pups to start devouring it. The police officers quickly meet up with the researcher while the other fighter watches the scene in shock. After being eliminated, the explosives expert ends up dropping the detonator, and on seeing the object, Adama decides that he will retrieve it. In doing so, the man orders his friends to flee towards the exit, but just after triggering the device, he is attacked by the pups, who devour him in front of his companions. Realizing that he has just lost another partner to the sharks, Adele despairs and is grabbed by Sophia, who begins to lead them away with the diving apparatus. Before the pair could escape, the explosives detonated, causing them to be hit by debris. Outside, Caro and Marcus are surprised by the explosion and are extremely worried about their friends. Despite this, the pair manage to reach the boat, and Adele is rescued by his team as the explosion has caused serious injuries to his body. After helping to rescue her friend, Sophia returns to the bottom of the river and observes the rubble at the exit of the catacombs. Suddenly, the woman is surprised by Lilith, who managed to be the only animal to survive the explosion. After the predator moves away, Sophia tries to shout to alert her friends. But at that moment, the shark makes a powerful leap under the dinghy, throwing the policemen into the air and causing them all to fall into the water. Soon after, Caro and Marcus are surprised by Lilith, who eliminates each of them with a single bite. Desperate, Adele and Sophia swim to the overturned dinghy, and when they notice that the predator is heading toward the triathlon swimmers, they decide to chase it so that they can try to warn the population. After overcoming the boundary nets, Lilith begins to devour the competitors, allowing the monster to feed unnoticed. With so many swimmers being attacked, the people around begin to notice, and this causes everyone to panic. At that moment, Lilith makes a great leap into the midst of the competitors, devouring yet another of her prey. As they witness the shark attack, people try to rescue the swimmers, but to no avail, and the widespread panic causes even more victims to be thrown into the water. Quickly, the military boats begin to surround the predator, firing at it with their weapons while creating a whirlpool to confuse it. Desperate, Angeli tries to warn the soldiers about the bombs at the bottom of the river with Adele and Sophia, but the deafening battle prevents them from being heard. Despite all the shots, Lilith manages to resist the attacks, and thanks to all the movements in the river, the submerged explosives end up triggering. The soldiers are then hit by a huge explosion, after which all the other devices are activated, starting a chain of destructive explosions. Thanks to this, the entire population is in complete despair, and civilians run in terror as the bridges over the River Seine begin to collapse after being rescued by one of the policemen. Sophia and Adele witness a tsunami hitting the city, wiping out several people. Before they can react, all the survivors are caught by the giant wave, which destroys a large part of Paris. A few minutes later, Sophia returns to the surface, where she finds Adele unconscious and tries to swim towards him so that she can rescue him before he sinks completely. With that, the researcher takes her friend to one of the wrecks, and the sergeant wonders if the fight against Lilith has finally come to an end. Upon hearing Ad's question, Sophia starts to look around and notices that the whole place is full of shark pups who are circling the perimeter in search of new prey while being accompanied by their mother. Due to the flood caused by the explosions of the River Seine, all the streets of Paris were flooded, allowing the predators to leave their nest and head towards the urban center. Thanks to this, the city ended up being taken over by sharks who swim along the expressways, underground subway stations, and sewage channels throughout the region. From now on, Paris has become a new home for Lilith, who will be able to reign as a new kind of predator alongside all her offspring.